Okay. Okay, we're recording it. So when we have qualitative data, for purposes of making decisions, you will have to transmute that or translate that into qualitative data. While we can look at male, female to be categorical data or nominal, that means we're just trying to group people into males, females. No, if you work with the Western world, gender is simply a preference. So it will be a declaration of who you want to be. Okay. And with the evolution of time, we don't know how male, female will be classified. According to the LGBTQ domain, there are just a combination of gender categories. So if you look at it, it's very difficult now to provide categories that are somehow exclusive groups. Once you look at, let's say, I really am not too sure about the classification of gender according to the modern classifications like transgender. I'm not too sure now. But anyway, when you look through the spectrum, diba? Ang representation sa kanila will be the rainbow. Look at the colors of the rainbow. You cannot confirm which will be the boundaries of one category to another. So it's very difficult. When you will have to use this as a quantitative basis for a decision, you will have to translate the gender declarations into quantities or numeric form. Okay, so that we know that there is that kind of need and the recognition that we truly have some form of subjectivity in this type of qualitative data. Okay, so what are the characteristics of quantitative data? These are numeric, logical, objective, detailed, and in standard form or unit. What do we mean by all of this? Numeric, we immediately understand that. Why do we say that one characteristic of quantitative data is that it is logical? When we refer to reasoning as logical, it means it respects specific steps, specific validation, and will conform to standard interpretation. Why? When you say your weight is 125 kilograms or pounds, no? Pag namali mo lang yung unit, that will be a big difference now. Diba pag sinabi pong you're 120 kilograms and you're female, then you will probably be classified as super obese. But if that would be truly 120 pounds, you still will be within bounds of normal weight for a specific age and height. Depende po, no? So, when we say logical, 120 kilograms will be directly comparable to someone of the same age, gender, and personal lifestyle to someone with 150 kilograms. No? Pag sinabi naman natin, when we're comparing male-female in terms of their weight, you will have to understand that you will have to provide the specific perspective, no? So, when we say logical, kasi diba, pag nag-argue ka with somebody, you will have to be conscious of where you stand. Because if you do not declare your perspective, ang hirap makipag-argue with someone. Kasi sabi niya, kasi yung perspective mo iba. If you're not on the same page, yung sinasabing, that's an expression, no? If you're not in the same page or you're not standing on the same perspective, balinkyado yung pinag-uusapan nyo. And the rules by which you argue with one another will change according to each other's perspective. So walang saysay. So when we say logical, di ba? When we're comparing male and female, same age, same lifestyle, but it's different genders, you will have to be logical kasi laging may correction factor. Nakikita nyo na when you look at weight and ages, it will have to be referenced by gender. Iba yung normal range doon sa weight with respect to females, iba doon sa males. So when you're processing data, and you will be processing large data, big data, according to your profession, kailangan yung laging you will have to be very careful about your stand. You will have to declare from which perspective are you looking at. If you will have to cancel the border of gender, now you will directly compare a female age 19 and male age 19 by weight. You will have to justify why you're saying that they can be looked at from the same perspective. That a female 19 years old with weight of 120 can be compared with a male 19 years old with a weight of 180 pounds. No? You will have to be conscious that when we're looking at a male, female, there is this intrinsic level of understanding that a male's weight will distinctly and significantly differ with that of a female of the same age, the same lifestyle, and the same type of analytical framework. Kaya pag sinasabing logical, a quantitative data is logical, is that when you compare them directly, you have reason and valid reason at that to take that perspective. Okay. When we say quantitative data is objective, it means that walang bahid na personal interpretation. Okay? So, it is what it is. Which means that you have to go back to how the data was collected, how it was measured, and where the circumstances that it was measured. Okay? Kasi, let's say, you are who lives from up the mountains. Is this the class where one needs to go up a mountain to get a signal, di ba? 14-minute walk niya. Have you ever been up the mountains? No? So if, let's say, let's have the extreme case. No? If you are from a place which is of very high altitude, let's say Tibet, no? And someone who is a resident of a place which is below sea level, let's say Holland, no? Alam natin na nagpa-pump sila para lang mag-float yung land area nila. And their techniques of survival are worthy of emulation, of trying to adapt their kind of lifestyle, in the sense of being conscious that at any time they do not collectively work towards their own survival, Holland may suffer great consequences. No? So Tibet and Holland, okay, just because it's a familiar case of Tibet being high up in the mountains and Holland below sea level. Most of it, I think. I'm not too sure. We get to check about it. So just assume that these two are as I have declared them to be. If, let's say, you're checking on blood pressures, no, as an integral and primary data of whatever it is you're trying to analyze. If you're trying to have a sensor, if you're building up a sensor, if you're building a sensor for some form of normal blood pressures, no? You will have to be conscious that people living up high in the mountains will have different reference of their blood pressure than those who live below sea level. Those who are used to living in high altitudes cannot survive in areas, okay, which are not too high up with respect to the sea level gradient. Kaya, kung gagawa ka ng sensor, let's say, to sense hypertension in these types, no? Although blood pressure is a standard unit, you will have to be conscious na iba yung reference nila. Okay? So, there always will have to be some form of correction and you need to be conscious of that para yung applications mo will not suffer. Okay? Will not suffer locality. Okay? Do you understand? So, tingnan natin, di ba yung IQ? If a male of age, let's say 19, 20, 21, and a female of the same age, 19, 20, 21, if you take the same IQ test and someone, okay, and someone scores higher than the other, you cannot immediately compare these two, although the IQ value is supposedly comparative. Pag raw score ng IQ test, hindi pa yun yung IQ mo. Why? Anyone who can volunteer why that is not the case? Anybody? Miss Orogo?
Yes, hello.
Miss Orogo? Would you know?
Siguro po, hindi ko po sure kasi kailangan pa pong i-evaluate kung saang part po nakabilang yung score mo. Hindi ko po sure.
Yung category. Okay, sige. Okay. Thank you. Anyone raising their hand? Is there anybody? Okay, wait.
Ma'am Hernandez po.
Oh, sige. Go ahead, Mr. Hernandez.
Yung pagkakasabi niyo po kasi ma'am, yung nakuha doon na score is raw. Di man po tayo kasi ma'am pwede magbigay ng tawag dyan, facts kapag yung data is raw. Dapat yung data is processed para maging facts. Parang ganun po.
Okay. For the purpose that it will be used for. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, why a raw score in the IQ test cannot be used to directly compare who has the higher IQ is because between males and females, there will be a correction factor. Tinitingnan natin same ages ha? 19, 20, 21. Bakit ka mo? There will be a correction factor for males. Halimbawa, yung score ng female 110, yung lalaki 105, raw. It may come out that the male with 105 IQ raw score will have a higher actual IQ than the female with a raw score of 110. Bakit kam? Why? Why? Why are we trying to make this kind of emphasis? Is because when you capture or collect data, you will have to be very careful about how to use this data. Okay? Bakit kamo? Why can we say that? Diba? Yes? Sinong nagre-raise? Go ahead. Mr. Reperoga. Go ahead na po kasi mahirap. Ang laptop ko is, I told you, it's old. Pag shifting. Go ahead. Who raised his hand? Miss Reperoga kanina? Did you raise your hand? Anyone? Wala na. Okay. Kasi yung males, meron silang delayed development. That is not because they choose not to develop on their own as females do. It's a physiological kind of differentiation. Diba? Kaya, pagka male, you cannot expect a male who is 26 years old. Generally, it's not a full declaration as true to everybody, but generally, males take some time to mature. Okay? To catch up with their female counterpart. Kaya bagay yung mga females, yun ang medyo, when you say courtship, no? Sila yung mas I'm not too sure, no? But as I have observed, mas maraming females na medyo mas into relationships than males. Yung males medyo, it takes them some time to, I'm not too sure, but you know, at our age, na mas hindi pa masyadong concerned with being serious about relationships, pero yung female early on mas earlier. Okay. So, ibig sabihin ganun ang pagtingin. And then, when you compare a young and old with respect to IQ scores, you will again have the correction. The correction will have to be made on the older individual taking the IQ test, because there is recognition that obsolescence of what you can remember, no, with your brain cells, they will diminish as you age. So comparing an old one with a younger one will not be made directly until there is a correction. So we need to be very objective about this. Bakit? We recognize what science has established. Okay? And it's detailed. Why? It needs to be detailed so to the degree that it is needed. Kasi kung hindi mo naman ginamit yung unit or the degree of detail that is necessary for the analysis, bakit pa ba? Diba? Let's say like raw scores on the IQ test. It's just a waste of time, a waste of energy, because you cannot use this in raw form. Okay? In standard form or unit, because with the unit, we will have to be very careful about this, because without the standard unit across the measurements, all those data cannot be processed. Okay? Kaya yung data clean yon. So don't make the mistake of using data that are not using the same unit. So, di ko alam kung ano na yung evolution ng special project nyo when you will have to have an evaluation of your output. I would suggest that you have it jurored or evaluated, not among your peers, no? Have it evaluated in the area where it is used. So, submit it to digital evaluation across the network para talagang ma-confirm if whatever it is that you develop for your thesis can be used across the users, the types of users that it is meant for, yung target audience mo. Okay, why do I say that? Because sometimes, ito ang iisipin nyo po, I have worked with the Computer Science Institute in the 1990s, and then we transitioned to the College of Science where the department has its own declared values, no? But what I know, ang daming graduates ng Computer Science Institute and the college and the department of CSIT who are so successful, much more successful than their professors. Why? Because on your own, you develop your own skills, your own knowledge base. And because some of your professors are older than you are, they have more focus on some things which are personal, not any more professional. And it's also very viable that those who are young and are more focused on building their careers are able to develop their skills, okay, better than their professors. So just be conscious of that and don't let small minds dictate on you as to how you would like to develop your own first applications. Kasi yun ang dala-dala mong proof of what you're capable when you apply for a job. Ang daming nagtatanong to get a copy of your thesis. Okay? At least those in the years past na when you use a professor as reference, some of the big time employers will call and then ask about the attestation of the professor as to your attitude, your behavior, okay, your capacity to work as a team, and so many other questions which are kind of personal in nature, in the sense that the professor will really have to know you to answer those questions, and then they will ask for a copy of your thesis. Ito yung mga big time. So you will have to also prepare for that. So kung sinasabihan kayo ng panel na ganito, and alam mo naman na you're meant for the bigger world, have your output evaluated in the international domain. Konti lang naman ang kailangan mong mag-evaluate doon, but yung marunong. And when you prove that your work is world-class, that is an attestation of what you're capable of. Sometimes kasi, when the professors would like to box you in a smaller box, they would like to do that for whatever reason, maybe to facilitate whatever. But go beyond that. You just do it on your own, okay, with advice from your advisor if it's an active advisor. But yung parang pasiguruhin mo lang yung future mo. Okay? So I hope you get to learn of when and how you can have your own decisions in life. Okay. So what are the main characteristics of quantitative research? Okay. You use structured research instruments. Bakit kamo? Kasi lagi-lagi yung research instruments nyo will have to proactively anticipate what it will be used for, which is what we're saying is decisions, policies, okay, or to establish some proof of what truly your research would like to establish. Okay? And the results are based on larger sample sizes to represent the population. Sinabi na natin to na hindi ka pwedeng maglimok-limok lang on the sample units, but that the sample units will have to speak about the population. Okay? And that the research will have to be subject for replication, okay, and that the research output will be able to clearly answer the research questions, okay, because it has been clearly defined in the paper on how, what, for and the process by which you will collect data to reach the answers for those research questions. Okay? And that all aspects of the study are carefully designed before the data is collected. So when you look at this, okay, characteristics, what it tries to point out really is that you will have to, anong nangyari doon? Bakit black na yan sa inyo? Hindi na nakikita? One. Are you able to look at the presentation pa din? Pag mini-minimize ko, ayaw niya nang makita, no? So, anyway. Oh. My Lord, wait lang. Okay, you're able to view it because I'm trying to... Anyway. Why, when you look at all of these characteristics of the quantitative research, makikita nyo parang sobra naman to. Ang dami-daming boxing. Okay? Ang dami-daming frameworks that you will have to abide with or to respect or to observe. Ang ibig lang sabihin nito, you will have to be very careful with quantitative research because the conclusions will apply to the population, not just to the sample units. Okay? So the data are in the form of numbers and statistics, okay? Usually presented in tables, charts, figures, or other non-textual forms. Okay, why do we have to have this? Okay, why? Bakit kamo that there is usually this, not just usually, there is this effort to present data in graphical form, tabular form, or non-textual form? Because you provide the user, who generally are technical individuals, who on their own can read through the tables, the graphs, the charts, the non-textual, if it's a mapping, okay? If you would like to have your own forms of presentation, no? These people who are technically versed on your field of specialization can on their own appreciate the data as it is. And the less verbal input, the better. So less statements, lesser mistakes. Okay, kindly provide me po with your last names in the chat box. In one minute, I will lock it just to... Can you please give me your last names in the chat box just for the attendance? Okay na po. Okay, where was I? So less talk, less mistake. And that runs through with the technical discussion of results of a quantitative research. Understand that if you attend corporate meetings or conferences, the conferences will not last for an hour. Usually in 30 minutes, everything is discussed. And you will be given only a few minutes to present a very comprehensive report on whatever it is that you studied. So you don't have the luxury of time to be spending too much talk. Just present the data as anyone technically versed can fully understand. Okay. The project can be used to generalize concepts more vividly, more widely, and predict future results or investigate causal relationships. Etong when we talk about uh, predict future results, ibig sabihin this will be for forecasting, and that means looking at trends, no? For those of you who are working with stocks, baka meron na sa inyong who's playing with stocks, di ba? Ang dami-daming advertisement sa FB, learn how to trade. If you're doing that, then you're very good at looking at forecast, just looking at the graphs, no? You don't have to be very technical about how it's done. When you have the software and you look at the patterns, normally, statistically, what we do is look at the panels. Ilang years ba sila, kung months or weeks or days, na you get to see that these panels repeat itself. Ibig sabihin, hindi talagang saktong-sakto na parehas yung trend. That the going up and down will respect some slices. And these are called panels. Okay, when we look at causal relationships, we're looking at cause and effect. Pag sinabing cause and effect, it will have to be very clear as what is the stimulus or the stimuli and what is the reaction. Okay? So pag nag-causal relationship, titingnan natin, does the presence of X, okay, imply the presence of Y? So what causes Y to happen? It's X. So that's a causal relationship. So we will have to look at these kinds of things, no? Either directly or indirectly in the measure that is allowed by the level of understanding that this subject will be able to address. And that the researcher uses tools such as questionnaires or computer software to collect numerical data. For your level of expertise, you know that you can generally collect data using your digital capture. But we will have to be familiar or conversant with privacy laws, no? So hindi ka pwedeng mag-capture ng data from somebody else's website or personal space without permission. And you cannot use this data for your own study if there is no outright permission from the sources. That is why when we collect data either through direct completion of a survey questionnaire or through interview or chat, capture mo doon sa chat box yung information, you will have to, from the start of the interview or the chat messaging, that you will use the information as part of a study, but that their anonymity and confidentiality of information will be protected throughout the engagement, and that within 1 year of capture, all the data banking formats will be purged, either electronically or the hard files. So those are assurance as part of the ethics concerns, no? Na hindi mo gagamitin yung data nila beyond what the study will require its use. Okay. So when reporting the results of a study using quantitative methods, you will have to abide by this guidelines. Okay, you can just read through it, no? So anong ibig sabihin nito? This will tell you that you will have to be transparent and accountable. Okay, do I need to read those? Basahin nyo na lang po, okay? Nandiyan naman yung yung source. Okay? And then ito, no? Ang basic nito, ang basic idea of when reporting the results, okay, is that you will have to be accountable and transparent. So, a guide for this, no, is for you to always maintain a journal para when there are things that happens and we'll have to explain why there's a missing data or why you need to declare one or several data points to be outliers, ibig sabihin hindi sila part of the group, then you will have to refer to your journal or log, activity log for the research, that some things happened which were not within the bounds or scope of the study. Okay? So, pag wala kang logbook doon sa activity na ginagawa mo sa research, it's very difficult to justify why some data points will have to be taken out of the group or data file because this can be considered as outliers. Outliers means that the data do not fall within the scope and limitations that you have declared from the start of the study. Okay, so what are the steps in quantitative research? First, you declare the research problems. Bakit ka mo? Nagsa-study ka pa lang, you immediately declare your research problem. When you look into a possible explanation of a phenomenon, it means that you're trying to provide some answers to some difficulties, some concerns or issues. Because if there is no problem, why should you find solutions? If there's no question, why should you find any answer? So, a research will always commence from a perspective of a problem. Whether that problem is a core issue, ibig sabihin wala pang nagtatahak doon sa areang yon, or it will be an enhancement, or it will be a validation, confirmation, or it will be a divergent stand on a specific issue in your field of study. Suppose you would like to declare that an antivirus system may not only be referenced with a particular language or syntax. If that is your point of view, then you probably diverge from the mainstream understanding of what an antivirus system will have to be. So this will have to really commence from a standpoint of having some form of a problem. Okay, so that is just a convention that we start with a problem because we're looking at solutions or answers. And then you provide the analytical framework. Etong analytical framework, this is what the University of the Philippines and some other university uses by merging the conceptual framework and the theoretical framework. So, sa Bicol University, we have the conceptual and the theoretical framework. But for me, it's kind of unwieldy kasi parang OA lang. So, yung analytical framework, madali on mahiling doon on what components of the study you would like to address. Very, very clear na doon. And there is no separation what your concept is and what the theoretical support there are for your kind of idea on addressing the research problem. So I would I would like to introduce you to the analytical framework because it addresses both the conceptual and the theoretical support. Either way, you can have both kung gusto mong ikalas. And then you formulate your hypothesis. Okay? What will be this hypothesis? The hypothesis is the set of one by one, the set of statements that you would like to prove. Okay? And then you provide the appropriate research design for what? For the set of research problems that you have, but you get to see it nandito po sa analytical framework kung ano yung appropriate research design. Okay? And then you provide the operational definitions of all that you have declared in this analytical framework. Bakit kamo? When we provide the analytical framework, you get to see there the variables that will be addressed. And then you need to define all of these operationally, okay, as it applies to your study. Okay. Bakit? Because we wouldn't want anybody using the results of your study to have a different perspective than what you have adopted for the study. From the beginning of this discussion, we said when you want to be logical about something, you will have to declare your same stand. I mean, same standing ground from where the discussion will have to commence. Okay? Parang when you make a conversation with your parents and your parents are in a different cloud and you are in a higher cloud, however you try to argue, there wouldn't be any form of valid conclusion because you are both having your own conversations at your own time and field, and there is no common ground that you can rest on and be able to decide on who is being reasonable and who is not. Okay, and then you select your research site or domain. So ito, kailangan mong i-frame yung research mo within a reasonable domain na kayang tapusin for the period that your study will run for. Okay, kung 2 months, 3 months, kung gusto mo mag-graduate, di ba? So you do not prolong your agony by cutting chunks which can be readily addressed within the time frame that you have declared for the study. And then you determine the respondents or study units from the population, and these are declared as your sample units. Ang sample units, ibig sabihin, will the unit be individuals? Will the unit be households? Will the units be like documents? Will the units be let's say if you're looking at problems with an operation system, will the unit of analysis be the single period that someone uses the operating system, or will it be defined within the first 30 minutes, within the first 20, or the last few minutes? You will have to define your sample unit. Then you collect the data, okay, process the data, and then report on the results only based on the research problems. Do not go beyond the research problems, because in here, we are not to be part of the interpretative realm or domain of those who pursue languages, no? Because they have their own forms of interpretation of anything and everything. In here, we will just circulate or confine the study within the research problems that you have declared. Nothing more, nothing less. Okay? And then, what now will be the steps for analyzing quantitative data? Once, that's a typographical error, once data are collected, these are cleaned. When I say cleaned, di ba yung kung may outlier doon, kung meron ka doon na unit na mali, check it out. Kung meron kang sample unit na mali yung reporting, go back to the source, tingnan mo, should it be dropped, should it be corrected. Once the data are clean, then you need to store it wherever you want, digitally, in whatever form, okay? And then, now, after which you secure that these are data banked, then you process this with respect to a statistical instrument appropriate for the data to answer your specific research problems. And the statistical information resulting from the data are summarized in tables, graphical, map, or non-textual forms. And then you now declare what the users will have to be aware of to be able to truly appreciate the results of your study. Okay po? And so this is where we end the discussion on data and methods. Okay? Okay, let me just stop the recording because we go to the other topic. Okay pa ba tayo? Are we good?
Yes po, okay po.
Yes.
Okay, so let's just breeze through the other. Let's just stop recording first.